This is Mayor Harvey from the city of Brunswick. We are about to enter our commission meeting for this evening. So I'd like to call the Brunswick City Commission meeting dated Wednesday, July 7th, call to order. We will have our invocation led by our Mayor Pro Tem Felicia Harris, and also our Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Johnny Casey.
If you would bow your heads. Most heavenly, most gracious Father, Spirit of the one true living God, we thank you now for this opportunity to come before you to do the business of the city of Brunswick. We pray now, God, that as the citizens have entrusted us with their trust and their care and the overseeing of the executing of those matters concerning the city of Brunswick, we tell you thank you, God. We ask now that you would just bless this meeting, bless the minds to come on one accord, have us to be able to proceed and to conduct the business of the citizens and of their concern, God. Bless each and every person under the sound of my voice. In your most holy and precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight, being on board with us for this meeting. Realizing that we do have a storm out there brewing, in a tropical storm in our community, brewing around, pushing out a lot of water and rain, a lot of wind. But we must go on, and we know that all our staff is doing their very best to make sure we are staying safe. Led by our city manager, Ms. Regina McDuffie, and the leadership with all her staff members, her directors, make sure that we are well informed and also well protected. So we're going to dispense with our public hearing. Brian, do I need to have a motion to defer the public hearing to next meeting?
Yes, I think it'd be appropriate to do a motion and identify the items that need to be deferred to the next meeting. So it looks like.
And add it.
Yes.
That's correct, yes.
Looks like item number 1.
I'll make a motion to defer item 1 and item 2 from the July the 7th agenda.
Second.
Motion second to defer item number 1 and item number 2 from our July 7th agenda. We will defer that to our next meeting, which will be July the 21st. Are there any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. All right, that motion carries 3-0. Also, there should be an item to add to our agenda as well. Brian, do you have that item?
Correct. I do. I'm pulling it up now.
The emergency.
Yeah, do you need a motion to add it?
Yes, for the emergency resolution.
I'll make a
Yes.
motion that we amend the agenda to include resolution number 2021-10, which is a declaration of local emergency in response to Tropical Storm Elsa.
Second.
The motion second to include add item number, the petition to emergency on, petition number 1021-10. Are there any further comment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed have the same right. Okay, that item will be added to, and it will be number, how about, let's make that number 11. Okay, make it number 11. 1021-10. Okay. All right, as we get started, dispensing with item number 1 and 2 have been deferred. Item number 3 is the presentation. Mr. James McCurry Jr., Chief Administrative Officer for Georgia Ports Authority, to give us a presentation regarding the fire marshal's report from the fire we had at the port. Sir, are you on board?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and members of the commission. Also want to let you know that Griff Lynch, who is our executive director, is with me. I think he wanted to maybe say something before I kind of get started with some of the details.
Please let him, yes, sir, please do.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Griff Lynch, Exec Director, as Jamie said. I just wanted you all to hear from us that obviously we're treating this situation extremely seriously. The second fire in 5 years. We are working very closely with Logistec and talking to them about the future. We have not committed to a future yet and what that means and what it looks like. And we won't until we understand exactly what played out, what transpired, and what caused this fire. So I think the words I want to say is I don't want anyone to think we're rushing into anything after this, this occurrence. We want to make sure whatever we do it right, and we protect the good citizens of Brunswick. And we take great pride in our long-term relationship. We want to make sure we build on that with you. And I know that Jamie will talk through the details, and we're here to answer any questions you have as he goes through that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Griff. And I think probably where I should start is with first thanking Regina for the opportunity to sit down and discuss with her kind of what had transpired over the at that point past month, 6 weeks since the fire had happened, and when we sat down a few weeks ago. And subsequent to that, County Commission asked for a little update, and frankly, initially the focus of that County Commission presentation was kind of business in general with the port, and then leading into some questions on the fire. And rather than give you a presentation about business in general, that I don't really think is what you all want to talk about, I'll kind of just go straight into at least what we understand to be some of the factors with the event that occurred there and kind of what is happening now. And I think it's fair to say that the compartments, so to speak, that we've been discussing this with the fire marshal, with our tenant Logistec at the facility, is kind of what has happened. What are we doing now to deal with both the immediate repercussions of the event itself and cleaning up and getting back into business in the facility on an interim basis, and then very importantly, what is the long-term strategy for utilization of the facility, et cetera. And I set it up that way because, first of all, with what has happened, obviously there was a fire going back to May the 1st in the office of the Safety Fire Commissioner, which is of course a state office. Their investigation starts the fire on May 1st and goes through how it began as what you would call a smolder, and then there was essentially an explosion as a result of, it seems, dust interacting with some sparks from that smoldering, and then of course the place burned completely to the ground. Our tenant there, Logistec, has of course been in the process of cleaning up the immediate aftermath there, and where we are with them and with the customers, which the customers in this case being the wood pellet providers who export through the facility, is to say right now business is kind of shut down for obvious reasons. The state fire marshal, your fire chief, and others have been in there and evaluated how business was being conducted there, what the facilities are available on site there, and what, if anything, can be done to resume operations in the short term with additional safety features in place that would give confidence that at least on an interim basis and in a scaled down operation, because the building is gone, what facilities can be used for now. That process has been kind of ongoing. So transitioning from the fire itself, the cleaning up from that fire, to getting back to some business operations, there are still some questions there. Without trying to represent Logistec, myself or ourselves, I think it's fair to say that they do have some ongoing questions that they're working through the state fire marshal's office, and that's I think a conversation that has some some time left before they kind of feel like they've exhausted all avenues in terms of what different roles and responsibilities are. But the fire marshal's office has laid out some criteria that will allow an interim operating scenario there. I think it's important to know that while there has not been a green light, so to speak, given yet, that some of the key factors that would be required to resume operation, and I'll read from what's called the order portion of the State Fire Marshal's consent order here. It would say that they would be permitted to resume temporary operations subject to the following guidelines. First, the cargo, if any, would have to be stored in smaller areas that are divided by some kind of fire protection barrier. And I'm not going to represent myself as being a fire expert by any stretch, but the rationale with that is that by compartmentalizing it more, it provides a safer and more manageable way to deal with any potential future safety hazard in the interim. Logistec would have to immediately submit a combustible dust scheduled control plan to the fire commissioner's office, which would at a minimum include assignment of a manager to document all efforts to prevent and control a combustible dust event or any combustible dust, excuse me, and must meet industry standards and be approved by the State Fire Commissioner's office. They would also, third, have to install a minimum 2-hour fire rated barrier. So some sort of wall or protective, not just in the compartmentalization in the smaller quantities, but also a clear dividing wall that would be a fire barrier in any of the remaining buildings that are used. And they would also have to increase the water supply to the south end of the terminal, requirement that can be satisfied by the installation of an approved manifold, or by providing Brunswick Fire Department with a trailer-mounted industrial submersible fire pump capable of providing necessary volume of water, gallons per minute of water in the case of another event. And they would immediately have to report any event to the Brunswick Fire Department for any fires, smolderings, whether exposed or not, meaning whether it is burning openly or something that's contained below a pile, but that the Brunswick Fire Department would have primary jurisdiction, and when there would not be any kind of permissible fire brigade or other fire management utilization by Logistec other than immediate notification of the Brunswick Fire Department. It's that operating setup that the fire marshal has laid out as a potential opportunity, as I said, for interim resumption of operations at the East River Terminal, but that has not been finalized yet. In other words, Logistec and the fire marshal's office are still working through details before the fire commissioner says, yes, okay, you can resume now. Now, in terms of the long term, and Griff alluded to this, the Georgia Ports Authority is not sure exactly what the right version of a long-term operating plan at the East River Terminal looks like yet. I think one thing that I would not be out of turn saying is that rebuilding another similar warehouse in the same exact location as the one that has burned down is not something that we think is going to be in the plans. There are other locations within the facility that could arguably be a better and safer location for any new facilities. There are also different types of structures that provide for different material handling and other safety components that perhaps also could be better for any future resumption of pellets. When we look at the type of cargo that's handled there, and perhaps I should take a step back and say this is a unique facility in terms of the different facilities that Georgia Ports Authority owns. One, it's the only place that is a full marine terminal that we lease out to a different terminal operator. But it's also that way because it's a particular cargo segment that we generally do not have the direct expertise in handling ourselves, that being primarily dry bulk cargo. So the dry bulk cargo, some of that sand, some of it's perlite, obviously some of it is wood pellets, peanut pellets and things of that nature. Those being very important products, obviously, to the state of Georgia, particularly from the agricultural side. Much of the materials cargo that move through the facility are very directly related to agricultural production in Georgia, particularly South Georgia. So there's a need that is currently not being met that is causing a great deal of angst in that community, if you will, the agricultural community, in particular the forest products industry. There are certainly jobs that are kind of compromised right now by the inability to export that type of cargo. So there is on the one hand, a great interest in getting at least some modest interim operation back up and running. There's also an extremely high level of interest in making sure that from the long-term perspective that we develop some new and better plans moving forward. And those are frankly things that we want to make sure that we are keeping you in the loop on as a commission, working closely with the Brunswick Fire Department as well as the Glenn County Fire Department, and of course the State Fire Marshal's Office, who, in that it's a state facility, ultimately has kind of jurisdiction in that regard from our perspective. So that's kind of a highlight of where we have been, what is happening kind of right now, and I guess really more our perspective on what we're looking to do long term, although it's fair to say that we're still at the very early stages of what the long-term planning is going to look like. So with that kind of general summary, I'm happy to answer any particular questions, or at least try to answer these questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Commissioner?
I have a question. You mentioned a 2-hour firewall. At least that's what it sounded like to me as one of the requirements. What is a 2-hour firewall?
That's a rating that, again, not being a fire expert myself, I'm not an engineer at all, but from when in the parlance of the fire marshal and the fire department, having a barrier that has a 2-hour fire rating, it's my understanding that essentially means something that can hold back a fire for that length of time, which enables a responding agency to get in there and address the fire. And that, coupled with a reduced size of capacity, provides confidence to the fire department and the fire marshal that, if given enough time to respond and the scale of the area is small enough, it can be extinguished before that barrier is broken and becomes a larger problem. And frankly, it also provides confidence to the cargo owner that by having a barrier, if you've got, say, the same thing on side A and on side B, if there was a problem in side A, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a full loss of everything on side B, if that illustration kind of makes sense.
I think my biggest concern is the proximity of this particular business so close to residential area. I mean, it's just the whole area is a residential area. There's just really no buffer between them. And I know that as quickly as the second fire happened, and there was, it's my understanding in talking to certainly our fire chief here, measures that should have been put in place and never were. And I would certainly want to know exactly if these requirements are going to be enforced. Well, first of all, I'd like to see them move. But second of all, if these requirements are going to be enforced, I think it's important for us to know how their compliance is going to be verified and how often they will be checked.
I totally agree with you. And that would be the verification of that will fall on the State Fire Marshal's office and on the Georgia Port Authority to make sure that, whatever plan is submitted, assuming that it's approved, is implemented according to what was approved. And I think that's an ongoing monitoring situation. It's not, set it up and then thanks, and we'll not pay attention to you again until there's another problem. There will have to be ongoing verification that that interim measure is kept in place. And then on the long-term side, frankly, the scope of what changes could be involved there and what kind of monitoring, et cetera, we don't really know yet what all that could be, but we're very open-minded to making sure that it is at the highest level of industry standards in terms of safety, et cetera. And while the facility, of course, has been there for a long time, the full property is really from the old gypsum plant all the way around to, where right now the section of the Golden Ray is sitting. That's the property area that is the former Brunswick Port Authority and Georgia Ports Authority facility side by side. That is now all Georgia Ports Authority. Even though those have been there for a long time, it doesn't mean that going forward, as facility improvements are implemented, that they can't be at a better and higher level. I mean, it's the proximity kind of is what it is, but we do want to make sure that there is a safe buffer between the neighborhood and the industrial facility, at least to the greatest extent possible.
As a commission, we would certainly want to ensure that we are kept informed, and certainly through our fire chief, that we know that those measures and those requirements are being met and that they are being regularly verified. Would be great.
And this is Commissioner Harris. Those are my concerns as well, and concerns that I've gotten from the community immediately around that area as well, is the responsibility of the Port Authority, and how is that being that authority being given over to the city of Brunswick to have say so in those requirements, in the safety requirements of its citizens, with that business. It's not about trying to remove the business, but it's about making the business, if it's going to be there, safe for it to be there within that community, and for that community to feel as they are safe with respect to being put in hazmat situations or dangerous situations. And so where does the Ports Authority's responsibility to our local citizens start and begin? And how are you all moving in that to make sure that that community, that the city of Brunswick officials, commissioners, fire chief, that we are having a say-so in the implementation of these safety measures? We're having an opportunity, our fire chief is having an opportunity for his input to be given and considered, as well as for them, because they're the ones that's responding to this immediately. They're the immediate response to these situations. And so even though they don't have the immediate jurisdiction over this, how is that jurisdictional privilege being provided to them as the first responders on the scene to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or that they have input in the implementation of safety measures? And so those are, I have a lot of concerns with this, but those are just some of the few concerns to just start off with, because the responsibility, to me, the ultimate responsibility lies with the Port Authority. This is your tenant. And there are certain jurisdictional boundaries that the city of Brunswick can't cross, but you can. You own the property. You're the responsible party for making sure that whatever goes on in that facility is safe for the community in which it is in.
All very fair points, and it is, as I said earlier, what we very much intend to do is to make the ongoing planning, the strategic planning of the facility a more collaborative process. I think that we owe you all and your constituents better communication, and we want to, maybe this is the first time, or at least the first time in a long time, that we have met with the commission as a whole, even if we've had some intermittent communication with individuals. This does not need to be the one and only, or certainly not the last time. We want to make sure that the dialogue is continuous, that is us listening, not just answering questions, but listening to the concerns and using that as input into that planning process. Like I said earlier, right now we're kind of still at the very outset of what the next steps are, and I don't have a lot of answers to the long-term version of that. But I think there's obviously state level jurisdiction and coordination that has to take place between the authority, the fire commissioner's office. And I know that we are both committed to that same dialogue being in place with the fire departments there locally, particularly with Brunswick. And then in addition to that, I think it's obviously critical that you all understand and have input into how the thought process is ongoing with, again, those long-term strategic plans. But right now we're just at the outset of that, and we're going to do a better job of coordinating with you all going forward.
James, this is Johnny Cason. Thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
You and Griff both. How was this fire alarmed? What was the alarm process?
That's a good question. And I think that frankly, there is some different feedback that I've received from different parties in terms of how this was communicated from one entity to another. I don't want to step out of bounds and say that, place a characterization of a fire versus a smoldering and those kind of semantics in place. I think that at the end of the day, sometime before the actual explosion occurred, there was some dialogue between Logistec and the fire department, but I don't know that it was the kind of, hey, we need help, come put out this fire type of level of alert that would be perhaps the expectation. So again, there are facts that are somewhat in dispute between the operators and the fire marshal and the report. So I don't want to speak for those folks, but the building was designed and approved with all of the necessary features in place. And obviously any future structures will have that and more.
Where was the alarm to go off in case of a fire? Where can you report on that, or had you rather not?
I would rather not, other than to say that it's at the facility itself.
But where did it alarm to is a question that I would have.
And I don't know that it alarmed to anywhere other than the facility itself.
To the Port Authority.
To the operator, the terminal operator.
To the operator, okay. All right. Do we have any other dry goods stored there, right in that immediate area?
We do have other dry
peanuts, any of that stuff, or is it all somewhere else?
Right now, the wood pellets and peanut pellets, what are understand to be considered the combustible products that are of a concern, have all been moved out of the facility. There were some immediately after the fire that were loaded out fairly promptly, and there are none there today. And the state fire marshal has not authorized the resumption of that unless or until Logistec satisfies their operational concerns and gets a specific sign off from the fire marshal.
Well, it's sure an unfortunate thing that it happened, and it's just unbelievable that the timely process wasn't there. It appears anyway to really get a handle on this thing before it got out of whack. And I want to reiterate my feelings immediately, echo the two commissioners that represent that ward for the city of Brunswick. I'm really questioning, do we need that in a residential neighborhood like we've got here in Brunswick? I know the person personally that lives in the house there on Oglethorpe Street, the corner, and that house was built in like 1835 or 1845. I mean, it is old, and it is just a kindle, just waiting for a spark, And I don't know how many more like that, but there's lots to consider here. There's a whole bunch to consider.
Jamie, if I may, Commissioner, we appreciate that. And I think others had mentioned the actual location of the flat storage building that did burn. And I would tell you, from what little we know at this point in time, the GPA fully agrees that part of the property should not be the location where a building is rebuilt if we were to have pellets on the facility. So that's something that we're taking very seriously. We're gonna look that over, look at the whole site and try to identify a site, if we were going to do it, where it makes the most sense. And clearly, right next to those houses is questionable at best.
This is Commissioner
Thank you.
Williams. I had a question concerning, and it kind of the same thing that Commissioner Martin talked about and other commissioners talked about, the timing of the event. How long before City of Brunswick Fire Department was dispatched to that scene? Was that fire burning before they got there?
It's my understanding from the state fire commissioner's findings of facts in the consent order that it's fire commissioner's perspective that at least the smoldering began, which they would consider to be fire, as much as a day prior to Brunswick Fire Department being called to the scene. And I think that it's true that actually only occurred after the explosion, which really begat the literal burning of all the product in the building. Again, it's the findings of fact and some of the particulars that I believe there remain questions between the operator there and the fire officials that they're continuing to sort through. But that's how I reason the report.
And Jamie, if I could, let's just in plain English, we are here and we're gonna do our best to make sure this doesn't happen again, as we said. But there were no GPA employees on the site. This was a leased facility to a company that was operating that terminal. So we don't have the alarm system in there, and clearly we have to look at why and what should we do, where should alarm to. We're not the ones that are reporting it or should have reported it. The leaseholder should have reported this in the appropriate time. We don't know if they did or didn't, but we clearly have questions about that, and we want to get to the bottom of it as well.
And so what you're saying, that Griff, we appreciate that, as well as James. And this is again Commissioner Harris. Even I am a South Ward commissioner, but the city of Brunswick is my full concern, the entirety of. James had said that the building is designed with features in place. But my question is, even with it being designed with the features in place, were the features actually in place? Were they working features as they should have been? And I know you all don't have that answer, and we do understand that. But again, we go back to the responsibility. This is a tenant. Are we making sure that they're complying, that they have these features and that these features are working? If it's designed for that, it should be working as such. And they should make sure that these things are operable and functioning as they should be functioning. So we appreciate you all being here and giving us as much of an explanation as you possibly can. But just like we want answers from you all, our constituents want answers from us.
Understood.
I think the
Yes.
one thing that really is of greatest concern to a lot of people is the lack of immediate response from Logistech in reporting just even the beginning of a fire, because they get out of hand so quickly. And I know that company is a large company, headquartered in Atlanta maybe, and they're removed enough to where they don't understand, just like y'all do. I mean, that you do understand there are people that live within feet, yards of that facility. And that's the main thing.
Yeah,
Well, we will be having, if I could, we have, Jamie and I both have initiated together contact with Logistech at their CEO and COO level, their principals. And we've expressed these same concerns, and they will be coming here to talk to us. And when they do, we'd be happy to have you talk to them as well, because we're asking the same questions, and we're gonna have some serious conversations with them. And the one thing I would say is, on the design component of it, I believe that everything that was done was designed properly and under code. The question is, you're asking the right question. was it executed correctly? Okay, when the time came. And we have serious questions around that as well. And if it wasn't executed correctly, we find that it was not, then we will deal with Logistec accordingly and ensure that either we have a different partner, or if we have the same partner, they'll do it differently. Okay, so we just need you to know that we're taking this extremely rightfully seriously, and changes will be made if we even handle the wood pellets again.
Thank you, because I really appreciate both of y'all being here and going through this process of explaining things to us to the ability that you're able to. I'm sure it's still under investigation, but we appreciate your concerns and your desire to make sure that as things go forward, things are going to be done properly, and safety is above all the first measure to look at.
Yes, thank you all.
And as the city manager, I would like to just reiterate, I think my conversations with Mr. McCurry, I'm sorry, just noted that, you know, the city of Brunswick is responsible for public safety. And our greatest concern, as the commissioners have expressed, is the safety of our citizens. And we need to have the input, such as what you all have talked about, and just being able to, you know, have our fire department, because ultimately they are the responsible party in terms of fire safety in this community. So they need to be first and foremost in the conversations regarding, you know, how the facility will be, I guess, not necessarily operated, but the safety measures that are put in place. And just wanting to reiterate that, because, you know, again, people, when they think about who's responsible, they don't know jurisdiction in terms of the state, the county, but they know it's in the city of Brunswick. So we are the responsible party in the public eye, and we need to have, you know, input so that we can.
Well, seems like she
Say
there
that
she
we
is.
respond.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to make one more point, and I think Ms. McDuffie just touched on it a little bit, is if our fire department and neighboring fire departments are all fully engaged in working a fire at Logistec, it's pulling them away from making sure that our citizens, if there were a fire to break out somewhere else in the city, that they still got the power to get where they need to go and put that fire out. So I think in that instance where you're pulling a huge number of responders to a fire such as that, if something else were to happen in the community, it would create, a further problem that would not be good.
Understood, for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'd like to say something before we close this. Well, Commissioner, do you have any other further questions before I add my last comments? Well, I'll just say, Mr. McCurry and Mr. Lynch, thank you all for coming to give us a briefing on this, realizing that maybe we know that this is either a preliminary investigation is not final yet, or if it is final, there are some things that really touches the Brunswick Fire Department that we would like for the Brunswick Fire Department to be adhered to, or be at least coordinated with. I know you said something about a plan that's going to be going forward from the state fire marshal. I would like for our fire chief to be at least to be in on the conversation with those things as well, if you don't mind. I think
No, that is the expectation, absolutely.
Okay, and also, Mr. Lynch, I know we've had conversations before about the Port Authority moving over to Andrews Island. It could be a good segue into, I know you want to move some things around. You said it probably will not be built. This operation will probably not be built on the same footprint. So it may be that you're looking forward, you can look elsewhere as well, help us develop Andrews Island for deep water port, and also to give a lot of buffer to our citizens in that general area. My other question was as you build this other facility, that as you stated, the safety guidelines that you put in place, we're hoping and praying that these guidelines, being away from as far away from the residential area as possible, and also the safety firewalls you're putting in place will be enough for in case a fire does start, because we're already saying that one may happen again, take to the nature of the operation of what we're dealing with. So therefore, and we want to make sure that we're able to put it out before it can get spread to our neighboring community. So we appreciate that, and appreciate you guys coming out and giving us a brief and update on where you are, and knowing the fact that we know that it wasn't Georgia Port Authority, it was Logistech. We understand that. It was a tenant of yours. But all in all, the city of Brunswick is responsible for its citizens.
Yes.
Georgia Port Authority is responsible for the state agricultural economic arm and so forth, realizing that too. And we want to be a good neighbor, and we want you to be a good neighbor with us as well as we move forward.
Yes.
So thank you so much for all that. And your final comments?
No, yeah, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry, I'll defer to Jamie here, but we agree with everything you've just said, and we will be guided accordingly.
Thank you, sir.
I agree.
Thank you. All right.
As a chief, can I make one closing?
Yes, Chief. Yeah, please do. Please do.
We would really, I'd like to reiterate, would like to be a part of the outcome on the, meeting the codes and the new industrial standards down there. An example, if you read the state fire marshal's report, he wanted to pipe water to the south side of that building. Well, that's good, and that's from a pump that is operated, inspected by a private company, Logistech. But I was a little concerned about the north side of the building also, where we're going to get water from the north and the west side. South side's good, but where we're going to get water, that needed to be added in there also. Our recommendation was that's a good backup, but an above ground tank like they had 20-something, 30 years ago, and a large pump is about the only thing that's going to work. There's more than just that warehouse and more than just wood pellets out there that we're concerned about. We're concerned about the whole complex. I have letters that I've written the ports and Logistech 20-something years ago as a captain about the water system at the Logistech. So we really want to be a part of that. The other water source was putting a pump into the river. Well, that pump is a pretty heavy pump, and you have to have some kind of crane to lower it in the river. Again, it's a good backup plan, but we don't have a crane. And so we'd have to rely on something at Logistech, and they may or may not have one on site. And it also takes when Savannah brings theirs, it takes 30 minutes to an hour to get that thing in service. So it's, like I say, 30 minutes to an hour is far too long to start firefighting. And that's just not a good way to run a railroad. But so we do want some input into the fire protection in that area. The other thing is there are videos of actual fire at least an hour before we got the call. I don't know how far before we got the call, but free burning fire before, not just smoldering. So we really need to be notified too. Things to think about, like that 2-hour rated firewall. The building that burnt had a firewall in it, but the pellets were stacked higher than the firewall. So I'm assuming that's how it spread from one into the other, plus the dust explosion. So we really need those firewalls. And those firewalls, it's not just an idea. That, from what I understand, that's state code. But really, we really need to be a part of those fire safety measures if they're, when they start building those new warehouses or refurbishing the ones they have. But we are for commerce in Georgia. I'm in constant contact with loggers and warehouse folks up in Alma, and they hunting around Hazelhurst and around the state. I've talked to them again today. And from what I understand, there was a meeting between Logistech and Fram recently, and I think the holdup was maybe Logistech. But I do understand the cost of what it's costing to not be able to haul these pellets here, and Savannah's too far a place to have to haul pellets to here and be from this part of the state and be feasible. But anyway, we really do support commerce, but we just want reasonable fire protection at those facilities.
We understand.
Hey, thank you, Chief. Thank you for that comment. And hopefully they will build a building that's not so close to our residential area, and also with all the safety concerns that you have mentioned. With the coordination with the State Fire Marshal and yourself and Georgia Port Authority, I think we would make it a whole lot better than what it was.
Yep.
So, thank you again, gentlemen. I appreciate it very much. We really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us, and also some of your plans for the future with Logistech, and also with where we're going with that plant operation out there. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
All right. Okay, moving right along, commissioners, to our next next item on our agenda. It's an update from Lieutenant Commander Pat Frame. And he's the U.S. Coast Guard, to give us an update on the Golden Ray project.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We're going to start off with some opening remarks from Mr. Tom Weicker, our Incident Commander.
Sure, thank you.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Really appreciate the opportunity to join you this evening. We've been working hard. The team has obviously been out there. We successfully cut Section 3. We got through last week, albeit with a release, but you know, we really appreciate the opportunity to meet with you all this evening. And Lieutenant Commander Frayne has a presentation to give you, and I'm more than happy to, on behalf of the Unified Command, answer any questions you might have. So, Lieutenant Commander Frayne.
Thank you very much, Tom. So as Tom mentioned, we did just remove the 5th section out of 8 from the rec site. This marks yet another major milestone for us, since we're now over halfway complete. From here, we have 3 sections and 2 cuts remaining. Section 3, or the 5th section right now, is at the 615 Bay Street facility in Brunswick on a floating dry dock, and currently secured for ELSA. Currently, we have paused operations and waiting for ELSA to pass in the Golden Isles. We did activate our heavy weather plan and secured all of our vessels, equipment, and personnel today until it's safe to resume operations. Following the storm, we do have a scheduled 2-week cutting pause for critical equipment maintenance, which includes the VB 10,000, which is the big golden arches out there, and our cutting apparatus. But the 5th section, it did certainly present some challenges along the way. As Tom mentioned, we did have some discharges. On May 14th, we had a fire inside the wreck, which was extinguished on the same day, but caused delays. In addition, there were stronger than anticipated structural members in way of the cutting path. We are always learning from these obstacles, though, updating our processes to prevent reoccurrence. One of those processes is our contingency plan for shape charges. And basically what this is, the plan prescribes the use of linear shape charges to precisely cut heavily reinforced structural members in way of the cutting path. Now, this plan is only a contingency for right now, but if it is activated, there is minimal impacts to the environment, since it's well above the waterline and contained completely inside the wreck. If we do activate this plan, we'll be sure to provide ample notification to all key stakeholders and the community. But even with all of our continuous process improvements and best planning efforts, there still may be fires, discharges of oil and debris, and noise at any given time for you to notify to your community. All of our environmental protection measures continue to be effectively implemented around the wreck site. This includes our environmental protection barrier that collects large subsurface debris, such as cars, oil, and floating debris. On any given day, we do have 12 to 14 on-water vessels around the wreck site, and anywhere from 10 to 15 personnel walking 16 to 20 miles per day picking up oil and debris. So they're all in great shape right now. So we do anticipate several more months of wreck removal operations, which includes the breakdown of the wreck site itself. This decision is going to be made in conjunction with our local stakeholders, such as yourself, state and federal trustee agencies. Our priorities continue to be the safety of our responders and the public while safeguarding the environment and commerce in order to restore the sound. So that's all I have for right now, pending any questions or comments from Mr. Tom Weicker. Thank you so much.
Yes, I have a question, Mr. Mayor. This is Commissioner Williams. How much or how little continual cleanup will be done after the golden ray is completely gone? Will there be dive operations to make sure that there's no other materials left in that area?
Would you like me to answer that, Pat?
Yep, go ahead, Tom.
Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner. This is a process that we as the responsible party, first of all, we're committed to until the end, but we are obliged to be committed to this, to see to it that, you know, first of all, the wreck is removed with the pollution that it currently presents. The plan really is going to be to recover anything that's inside of the EPB, which may be there at this point. And then of course, there's the impact to the marshland and surrounding areas. We, as Lieutenant Commander Frayne talked about, we're out there on a daily basis. We have teams of Gallagher personnel, U.S. Coast Guard, as well as state representatives from the EPD who are regularly combing the beaches and documenting all that, recovering materials. And we're not going to be permitted to depart the area until EPD and the state of Georgia are satisfied with the way we are leaving the beaches. So rest assured, this is a formal process that we will have to go through and remain committed to.
So that's good, because as the golden ray currently sits in the city of Brunswick. That's our city limits that is sitting in. And we are, well, that's the channel, but still our city limits. We're concerned about that too, concerned about the cleanup, as Commissioner Williams stated, realizing that we do have an environmental agency here who are also monitoring the impact that the golden ray has had to our ecological system as well. So we appreciate the fact that you guys are going to do all you can to take care of all that. And also we will hope that even though some of our systems have been disturbed, that there will be something that you can do to mitigate some of that disturbance as moving forward.
Yeah, also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to say that, you know, not just that, but the wildlife and how those things will be affected even in the future. I don't know if any studies have been done on the turtle population or anything of that nature to this point, but I'm quite sure that they'll be doing those type things as well.
Yes, sir. I can comment on that. We're regularly and have been since the inception or the occurrence of the incident. We've got millions and millions of air monitoring data points. We have sampling that we have been doing from the very beginning of water sampling. In fact, we just did water sampling yesterday. So we have all of this information where we're collecting incredible amounts of data to be able to look at that. Of course, we're sharing it with the other, my colleagues in the Unified Command from the state and the U.S. Coast Guard. So we are regularly going through this, I can assure you.
Has there been any compromised seafood or shellfish or anything like that, Tom? Are y'all testing, or what's going on in that area?
We haven't had any reports of that, Mr. Commissioner. But what we are doing is going with the water quality sampling that we have, and we have no exceedances of state limits to date. I don't know the exact number of samples we've done, but we have taken a tremendous amount on a regular basis. And again, Mr. Maddox from the DNR EPD is, again, my colleague in the Unified Command. and he sees to it that we're doing this to meet state expectations for that. But as far as seafood or anything like that, we have not had any reason to believe that that's been impacted.
I guess the DNR is right there with you in this effort. So I would have some discussions with them just so we can clear that, you know, and be able to say, yeah, we have not harmed the seafood industry at all. Just a suggestion. And y'all guys seem to be doing a good job. We just want the boat going. As I'm sure y'all do.
As nice as an area as you have here to you know, I look forward to visiting it and not working here. It's been a long road.
Thank you for your efforts.
I appreciate it.
This is Commissioner Martin. I have a question along those same lines that with 2 more cuts and 3 sections to go, what's the projected length of time that everything will take to dismantle? At least, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be, like you say, more studies done and evaluations and all of that. But just from a physical, visual standpoint, that all the apparatus and the boats and the will be done.
Understand, man, Mrs. Commissioner. So I kind of break it down into a few different levels. Let's start with the wreck itself. As you correctly pointed out, we've got the 3 remaining sections. We currently anticipate, and please consider weather as a portion of this. In a perfect world, we're probably looking at somewhere around the end of September for the final lift of the 3rd and final piece. And after that, we'll have to do what I talked about in terms of, let's call it cleanup inside the EPB, which will take a little bit of time. Of course, we'll be doing that as we're also doing the other cuts, but we'll need to do a final cleaning of that area. And you may know that we're doing side scan sonar readings on a regular basis. So we have surveys that we do on a daily, regular basis. So we'll be doing that. And then you have, as Lieutenant Commander Frame mentioned, the dismantling of the EPB, which we figure will take probably about 45 to 60 days thereafter from the final lift and removal of the last piece. So if that gives you some indication, okay? So I would say probably from the end of September plus 60 days for completion of that part. And then finally, we will have the sign-offs on the shoreline. Again, because this is a formal process that we have to do with the state and the federal government to get sign-off of acceptance of the shorelines being to an acceptable manner for the consensus amongst the 3 parties, Gallagher, State of Georgia, and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Thank you.
So how much time did Elsa cost y'all, and will it cost you in working days?
We were discussing that this morning at our meeting. I would say, sir, probably about 3 to 4 days.
3 to 4.
Yeah, because reconstitution of resources will take place, assuming that the storm passes this evening as it's projected, will begin tomorrow. And then the teams should be really fully operational by sometime Saturday.
And of course, you say in September is when you would estimate your final cut, realizing that we're in hurricane season, and I think it goes till November the 1st. So
yes, sir.
That's all. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. And of course, that's been a concern of ours all the time. You know, believe me, as the responsible party incident commander, it was my goal to be finished this. Well, it was all of our goal to be finished this is, you know, before hurricane season became an issue. But, you know, there were challenges that we had to take care of, and were unfortunately delayed into the season.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments, commissioners? Well, sir, we thank you, both of you all, for coming and giving us an update. And we would like to continue to have these updates periodically so we can know exactly what's going on, so we can at least share the information with our constituents. I'm sure they are wondering exactly too. They were inundated us quite a bit when the fire when the thing caught fire recently. And so we want to be able to have answers, good answers too as well. So we appreciate you coming to update us on this situation.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you guys. All right. Okay, Commissioner, let's move right along. Okay, our next item on our agenda is appointments, the authority and board appointment. Our first item is Brunswick Housing Authority, one appointment. It's the mayor's appointment. However, I'm still interviewing for that position, so I'm not ready to appoint yet. This is to appoint Mr. Gary Cook. His term ends 6/20/21, but he will continue to serve until reappointed or someone else appointed in that position. So we're gonna that position. I'm still interviewing for that position, and then we will make an appointment soon, real soon. Next one is the Brunswick Historic Preservation Board. That's one appointment. And somebody help me out here. I don't have my agenda.
It's Hetty Bernstein, Josh Dukes.
Josh
Yeah.
Dukes is one.
Name submitted.
Yes. Okay.
I think I remember his name from something else.
I think Hetty Bernstein is resigning from that her position.
Okay.
With that. So we have the other names here who are wanting to be appointed to this board. So Commissioner, you have anything to say concerning those boards?
I think Mr. Duke's name is the only name that's submitted, isn't it?
Yes, looks like.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Josh Dukes to the Historic Preservation Board.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been motion and second to nominate appoint Mr. Josh Dukes to the Brunswick Historic Preservation Board. His name being the only name being presented as well, to replace Ms. Hetty Bernstein. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposers have the same right. It appears the ayes have it. That motion carries. All right. The next appointment is to the tree board. And somebody help me again, please.
Jill Wright wants to be appointed to replace, I think, the expired term of Michael Lehman, or he resigned. It's unexpired.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that Jill Wright is appointed to the tree board.
Second.
Motion second to appoint Ms. Jill Wright to the tree board to fill the unexpired term of Michael Lehman. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposers have the same right. It appears the ayes have it. All right, that motion carries. All right, we're down to item number 6. Consider approval of June 16, 2021 work session and regular scheduled meeting minutes. The minutes and the work session minutes were in our packet, but if you need a second or two to peruse, I'll entertain a motion when you see fit to.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve our work session and our regular scheduled minutes, meeting minutes as of June the 16th. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposes? Hearing nothing from the opposer, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Our next item is item number 7. Consider approval of the financial reports as of May 31st, 2021. I imagine Ms. Kathy Mills is on board to present. She's our finance director. Ms. Mills, are you on board?
She's there, but she's trying to unmute.
Okay.
She's having a technical difficulties, I think.
Okay. Well, I've had those, so I can't say nothing.
I'm having mine.
Had my share of them too.
Thank the Lord for virtuality, though.
Y'all
Yes.
sound like y'all sound like y'all ready to sing a song. Y'all seen some good days, y'all seen some bad days.
We will
Hills
prevail.
decline.
We will prevail.
I can try and start going through the report if you like, or we can try and wait to Kathy. I think she's trying to dial in.
Okay. Either way, it doesn't matter.
Okay, I gotta find it on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, could we move on with the agenda and then come back to it if she comes on?
Well, we can do that too. That might be a good thing to do. Let's move on, and then when she gets in and we'll do. All right. Item number 8. Consider approval of enterprise zone incentive for 1505-09 Newcastle Street. Mr. Matthew Hill, our DDA director, is presenting. Matthew, you able to get on board?
Yes, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was at the hospital and I'm almost home to get my sheets out, but in your packet is the enterprise zone application for the Crest building, which I know you've seen the work that's been started there. But this application has been reviewed by the city departments as required, and the DDA board has also reviewed it, and it's been before the finance committee. Give me 1 second, grab this out of my case. Okay. The project is to rehabilitate the building, to put in 8 condominium units. There will be a rooftop restaurant and bar.
Do we lose you?
I think he may be having technical difficulties as well.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Outside the second
We
quarter.
can hear you now.
Me? Do you want me to go now while Matthew's getting home?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Matthew. Matthew, tell you what, why don't we allow you to go and get home, and we'll let Kathy go, and then we can come back to you. How's that?
Okay, that'd be fine.
All right, that sounds good. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I had to switch over to my telephone. I was going to tell y'all there's a tornado warning in Camden County until 6:15, and that thunderstorm is supposed to hit us by 6:37, according to.
Yes, it is, and I know you got problems too. So go do it as much as you can, as best you can.
Okay, you have your financial statements as of May 31st, and at that point, we're at almost 92% through with the fiscal year. We have a cash balance in the general fund of about $6.9 million. We have year-to-date revenues of $3.8 million, but I do want to let you know that at that point, the pension had not been paid, which is about $1 million. And, we have some adjustments we'll be making in the month of June. So that looks real good right now, and it will still be a good year, but right now it's showing 3.8 million over. Lost distribution for the month $1,000, which I think is a high, except for the 1 month when we got the $1,000 additional because of audit adjustments for something about a major retailer that had not been paying. So for the month, we were up 63.38. We were showing 15.83%. I did do the computation again without the 286,000 that we got earlier than the year. That was a one-time adjustment. And even if with that going on, if we had not had that additional 286,000, we would be showing a 10.92% increase in lost sales tax revenue for 2021. Okay, in title ad valorem tax, we have a monthly increase from the same time last year of 149.46%. For the year-to-date amount, our title ad valorem tax is up 38.41%. Next page is our SPLOST 6. Cash on hand, a little over $6 million as of May 31st. You see the center column, it shows how much the city has expended as of May 31st, which is almost $10 million. And of course, we have the funds that we've recently allocated, which aren't showing up yet on the May statement, but they will be shortly on the next statement. SPLOST 5, still $1,356,000 of cash in that account. Norwich Street Commons, no activity for the year. Year to date, that fund has earned, well, the only interest was the interest earnings, $200. We have a cash balance in Norwich, $6,000. The Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, you will see we have net revenues over expenditures of $28,000 because we put most of the money in there. That's not really a fair representation. We have a cash balance of $16,000. But the interesting thing to note, and I think we've talked about this before, is as of May 31st, we had transferred $180,000 over to Roosevelt Harris Center from the general fund. We had budgeted $100,000 for the year. So we are way over there. How look at that line above it, grants. We have taken in $157,000 that came in grant funds. We have a budgeted amount of $250,000. So that's where our shortfall has been. We have not received as much as we anticipated in grants. That number is going up right now. Darlene has been in touch with the CRC and we are getting higher amounts now. And in fact, have gotten some extra funds that they've been able to use to buy some equipment. Those funds were not available for our standard regular operating expenses, unfortunately, but at least we are getting some additional equipment.
Kathy, one quick question on that. How much of that do you think was related to COVID?
I think it's a good bit because I looked back at the last 5 or 6 years before the meeting this evening to see what we had been budgeting. And we had been budgeting around $230,000 to come in from grant money. And we'd been hitting it every year. We'd been getting that money. All I can assume is that, you know, it's come because of effects of COVID. Food prices have gone up also. So, you know, hopefully things will turn around. And like I said, these last, more like what we used to get in the past, but there was a couple of months we didn't get but like $10,000 in grant money. So hopefully that will go away after this year, and hopefully we'll get back on track. Sanitation fund, you'll see operating income $630,000. We do have a cash balance in the sanitation fund of $682,000, with another $194,000 that's set aside in case we have to pay out some more money for the landfill. The sanitation bills run basically $128,000 a month. You'll see there, year to date, we spent $1.3 million. Illegal refuse cleanups, year to date, $57,764. Street sweeping, you'll see no amount for May. I think that bill came in a little late, so it did not get paid in May. So we'll see, I'm sure 2 months in June there. Store has a net of revenues over expenditures of $490,000 for the year. Our cash balance at May 31st in the stormwater utility fund is $614,000. There were no additional expenses that were paid out during the month of May for animal control, traffic control, or the recreation department. And you'll see this year-to-date figures are on the right there. The last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center, and you'll see for the month of May, we had $6,262 in expense. Roosevelt Lawrence, we have approximately $81,000. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try and answer them.
Questions for Ms. Mills?
Uh-huh.
Any
Oh, I'm
questions?
sorry.
Any questions, commissioners? I have one. I have a couple. Splash projects, capital project Splash 6. It says that we have over $1 million left remaining in storm drainage improvements. So I guess I need to ask Gary or either city manager, are those funds allocated somewhere? Are they allocated to Magnolia Park or something maybe?
Yes, they are. They are allocated to the Magnolia Park project.
Okay, and also we got $925,000 for highways and streets. I guess they are allocated to paving the Magnolia Park?
Exactly.
That's good, that's good. Okay, that's all I got. Any other questions, commissioners? All right, I entertain a motion, please.
Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion second to accept the finance report presented by our finance director, Ms. Catherine Mills, as presented. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposes? Hearing nothing from the opposed, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Mills.
Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
Oh, no problem. We all had technical difficulty at times.
Yes, Mayor, the city clerk is offline right now. She does not have connection, so.
Okay. Well, the storm is brewing real hard now, and I can hear it outside my window as well.
It's cutting it out here. It really is. And we're under a tornado watch until 6:45.
Yeah, I'm seeing it myself.
Yeah, so let's hurry up and get off this train.
I was gonna say, do we want to move that resolution up to right now, or how would y'all like to do that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, what you say, Mr. Mayor?
Well, we look at this resolution. I got some questions about the resolution anyhow. So maybe we can't talk about that right now. Matthew, just hold on. We need to deal with this resolution as we speak. The resolution, it was item number 10, wasn't it?
Item 11.
Item number 11. Yes. Someone, I know someone has to have it already. Can you read it? What it says? It's basically dealing with the governor declared a state of emergency, and which means that all things are available to available to him for the safety and welfare of all citizens of the city of the citizens of state of Georgia. it opened up a lot of avenues for giving him authority to do a number of things that would be great for our state. Also, if we do that too, it just give us authorization to do some things as well. The reason why I have some question about this, Brian, is that we go ahead and issue this resolution declaring a local emergency. By 7 o'clock, by 8 or 9 o'clock, this emergency may be over.
Correct.
So that's the only reason why it will only last for maybe a short period of time. And is there something in that really that we need to, that give us authorization to do anything or not?
Does it protect us? If we go ahead and vote on this, does it further protect us because we had this in place?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think it would open us up to be able to receive whatever we would need to receive.
Okay, if it does, fine. That's my only question. And pretty soon this tropical storm will be over. That's the only question. But if we seem that it will provide some kind of protection for us moving forward, then I'm all for it too as well.
But it says it's good July the 7th and July the 8th.
That's to make sure we have to clean up. So that will help us with the cleanup as well.
Right.
There's quite a bit of uncertainty surrounding the storm at the time. I drafted it. It was this morning, quite frankly, and it didn't at that time. It didn't look like anything much would happen. Of course, right now I know that there's currently a tornado warning in Glenn, and it sounds like there was one that touched down in Camden, and who knows what could happen. So what this does is essentially it enacts and allows for our emergency management and response powers under our ordinance section 26-2. It vests quite a bit in the mayor and the city manager, which would allow them, to, without further action by this board, so we've declared a local emergency, would be able to start to take the actions as stipulated by the ordinance without having to reconvene the city commission and take votes on, what needs to be done. So in the event, I guess your question earlier is, at 8 o'clock, everything might have passed. However, if some trees had come down in the city of Brunswick, and there are live utility wires or impassable roadways or flash flooding, the mayor or the city manager could state, hey, listen, we need to have a curfew where everybody remains inside. We have restricted areas near, these particular neighborhoods or these roadways that we believe are either covered by water or that we believe there's down power lines. And that wouldn't require us coming back together. It's just, I think it covers us to the extent that if there is a need to enact one of the powers under the city's emergency management ordinance, you'd be able to do so without having to draw us all back in a virtual meeting. If I included a provision in the resolution that if the mayor does declare a curfew or additional restrictions imposed or restricted areas, that it shall not be indefinite, and that you would set a time period. You could state even to the extent that it shall be a restricted area until such time as Georgia Power or the appropriate utilities have cleared the area and deemed it safe.
Sure.
So it's not, never ending, but I tried to leave it somewhat open-ended because there was quite a bit of uncertainty this morning, and we now see that it does appear to be heading our way a little bit. And
it's cutting it out here, buddy, let me tell you.
Yeah, so there you go.
So Commissioner, this resolution before us, and I agree with our city attorney that it's something that we need to go ahead and act. So
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-10.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of resolution number 1021-10. Any further questions or comments? I know Naomi's not on board, but so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please speak up. No one opposes. That motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. We will enact that right away. And I will also let, excuse me, city manager, please let the EOC know exactly what we have done, okay? Since you are at the EOC. So please let them know. All right.
And Naomi just informed me she is back on via her phone, so she can at least hear the meeting that's going on right now.
Okay. Well, city manager will let everybody know at EOC exactly what has transpired. She may be having difficulty too.
Yeah, it's coming down on
Good,
us.
I'm sorry. I was on mute, but yes, I heard you and I will let them know. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now I imagine our next item that we need to talk about is item number 8, which is consider approval of enterprise zone incentives for 1505-09 Newcastle Street. Mr. Matthew Hill is available now. Sir,
Yes.
it's yours. Go ahead.
All right, here I am. Thank you. So as I was saying, this is the Crest Building, and the application was to abate the building permit fees and license administration, business license fees for the first year for the building management office, abate the sign permit fees and city property taxes. The finance committee reviewed this at their meeting last week, and on page 2 of the packet, the first 2 columns there are the relating to what the finance committee had recommended, which was abate the city property taxes for the first 5 years at 100% and then stop the abatement there. The last 2 columns there show you the what the reduction schedule would have been with the standard application, which is 5 years of 100% abatement and then a slow increase for the next 5 years up to 100%. So the city or the finance committee's recommendation was the first 5 years abated and then stop it there, which would, the notes below that are from the city manager, and I don't know if she's gone.
Okay. I got a question for you before you
yes.
go. So I see now, does this include all the fees, like the building permit fee, the sign, also the business, like all those things?
Yes.
They include all of that. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
and just to reiterate, go ahead, Matthew.
No, I was going to say that your notes were below there.
Yeah, my note mainly says that the savings to the developer based on the 5-year abatement would be $149,400. And that does include the permit fees and taxes.
Okay.
Right. Discussed it as we discussed in the finance committee meeting. Explain to them the benefit and savings or benefit for the city in granting this.
Well, basically the building current value, of course, is $865,000. The new value is estimated to be $3.5 million. The deferment of abated taxes would be for 5 years, and then the city would start collecting taxes. So the city would basically retain a little more than $52,000 based on the comparison between the 10-year abatement and the 5-year abatement.
And the appreciation of this property from this venture, we discussed that as well, the increase in value and the benefit to the economic development for the city of Brunswick.
Yeah, and basically what we said was that, we are giving them, upfront sort of incentive, and they will have those savings for the first 5 years. But going forward, we felt like, the city would, I guess, get the benefit for the development after then.
We had a starting a reflection of the current fair market value versus what the fair market value will be once these improvements or this development is completed.
Yes.
Would further show the benefit.
Yeah, it was, the current value was 865,000. The new value is estimated at 3.5 million.
Yes, also I noticed that there will be new jobs created too as well. So that's one good thing. And the enterprise zone was created for this exact purpose to spur growth and redevelopment in our areas as this. I don't know whether this is the first opportunity for someone to take advantage of this, but I'm glad that we had it available for someone to do that. Thank you.
When we
Yes.
abate business license fees, do they still have to apply for a business license?
Yes.
Yes,
The process does
Good.
not change. The building
Good.
permitting, the engineering review, all of that stays the same. So, and up to business license, they would still have to get the, the inspections and the CO and all of that. They just don't pay the fee. And the fee for the business license is only for the first year.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the fee is only for the first year, and then after that, they'll pay for their business license yearly for renewal, just like any other business.
Correct.
Right. And this
They
is
still have to show a business license, so that first year is where I'm going with that.
yeah. None of that changes, Commissioner Casey.
Yeah.
We're just allowing that incentive, but none of the requirements of the process changes. We just allow that incentive. But this is an impactful economic stimulus or stimulating occurrence that's going to happen for the city of Brunswick. Not to mention that it's in the enterprise zone, but in TAD as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. One good thing is that we're paying it forward, and we're looking for growth in the city, and it would be a really windfall in year 5 for us. So
I have one question, if I may, Matthew. Even though this property is in the federal opportunity zone, is it correct that Mr. McGraw is not taking advantage of that because he's selling his condo units, but he's retaining ownership of the building, correct? Or how does that work?
Yes, the whole building would be a condoed building, much like the old Woolworths building where Color Me Happy and A Stitch in Time are. So he would own the top floor and the bottom floor, and then the middle floor with the apartment, the residential units, those would be individually owned. So I guess he would probably be the majority owner in the condominium project. But yeah, the opportunity zone is kind of a tricky thing. It encourages, or the most benefit is obtained if you sell the property. If you intend to retain the property,
hold it for 10 years.
Hold it for
Yeah.
5 or 10 years and then sell.
Right, and then sell it. So, it a little bit encourages almost flipping, but.
So let me ask this question. In that case, then would the residents or the purchasers of the condo, would they pay taxes on the condos?
That would
Through
be,
the HOA, they probably would. The HOA would.
I think that would be a question for the city attorney. This is the first condoed one that we've had apply for enterprise zone.
Well, if it doesn't change in any way, we're not abating their individual taxes.
Well,
I know in the building.
But what we're looking at is
taxes are
the
on it.
abatement of the total value. So, that estimated value, if you're abating that total value, then you are abating the taxes.
Well, because you're abating the taxes on that specific property as a whole.
Right.
So the property at current is being looked at as a totality, not individual spaces that's owned by these individuals, but it's being looked at as that entire property, that building itself, that piece of property. and the property taxes that are currently being assessed on that specific piece of property, not individually on each individual. And so
So
that,
I
so
would
that-
think that the condo owners would still pay property taxes.
that they would, and that would be formulated in whatever document or however that HOA document is formatted.
That's right.
That's not on us. That's on the owner.
That's what I would say. That's exactly what I would say. I would say that at the moment, this is a looking at the property taxes of the entirety of the property, whether they're sold and condominiumized, because someone's going to own the top, the business on the bottom and on the top. And then if they're condominiumized, they would need to internally, if they wished, pass along that abated taxes to the condo owners. But yes, condo owners would be paying property taxes on their condos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And whatever appreciation is on that should be seen in the entirety of that building itself. If the individual condos causes the property value to increase, then that should be incorporated in the entirety of the assessed value or fair market value of that property, which would then be what is assessed on that property, period.
So I guess, I mean, if we're abating the taxes based on that $3.5 million estimate, should we not make it specific to the building value at this point, or?
It might be that I might need to talk to the property owner, I guess, and just say, how do they envision it? Because I would think it would be on the value that is presently identified as the 3.5 million.
But then how do we write? Let's say that property is once it's completed, it's 3.5, let's say in another year, because it's still in the renovation stages. So it's 3.5, let's say in 2022, 2024, let's say property values just shoot up for whatever reason. How do we now address the increased value or the potential increased value or the potential of value of the property value to increase? Did you understand what I was saying?
I believe so. So because I think it's estimated to be what, 18,500 annually, or about.
Yeah.
I think that the abatement follows the increase in value. So it would still be, I believe that's how that would go.
Okay. So okay. So if it's 3.5 in 2022, it increases, let's just say, to 4 in 2023. So the increase in taxes is still going to be based on the increase in whatever the fair market value is, or the assessable value is on that property. So as the value increases, the taxes should increase.
You're giving me a tax law question, but yes, you're correct. That's correct.
Well, the thing is, though, it's when you say it's in the TAD, if you abate the taxes, then it won't be contributing to that TAD revenue that's generated.
That's
right.
Yeah, I think it's held. It's established at that 18.5, and that's what carries forward. But I think we need some clarity on the fact that these condos are going to be sold, so you have fractured ownership, if you will. If Mr. McGraw still owns the whole building, my question is, where is he going to have an HOA? And what common area of the building does the HOA have responsibility over? I don't know. I just somehow, I understand the abatement and that it is established at 0.0 and carried forward. But I'm just not sure about, if I were a condo owner in that building, I would be wondering, where's my property tax bill?
Yeah,
they would get one. I believe they would still get one.
Right.
These are newly created residential units. Yeah,
Yes.
and they would. the building at the vote today cannot address future residential units created by the owner of the building. I mean, it would only address the entirety of the property as it sits. And then if there's a newly created residential unit, I think that you'd go back in and assess on that one in particular, and it would be its own separate entity. But overall, the building's owner and the property owner, I think, would be the benefactor of this vote tonight.
Okay,
I see.
well, but if you say that, our estimated value is 3.5 million. If they go in and, have the condos, and then the condos each are $400,000 and you have 5 of them, that's $2 million of that 3.5 million. So would the abatement be assessed on the 1.5 million value, or are you saying the value will increase?
The abatement is the 3.5 million is a estimate at this point. So over time, the value is going to go up, but the abatement is on whatever value it is that year.
Right.
Well, I understand that, but what they're saying is that the abatement would not apply to the condominium owners, but their value of their property is included in that 3.5 million. The building is not going to be 3.5 million value plus whatever the property owners' values are, is it?
Wouldn't the individuals who buy the condos each get a separate bill for their unit as far as their taxes for each year?
They should be listed as individual property owners
Correct.
for that
Parcel
space.
ID and everything. They own their condo unit.
So they would be owing of those taxes, and whatever's left over for the building owner would be abated.
It's pretty much going to be, think of it like a timeshare.
Like a what? Oh, a timeshare. Okay.
Yeah. Think of it like a timeshare. Each person they receive it's according to how it's actually set up though. Because timeshares can be set up all kind of ways. But if they receive a respective deed, if each of these owners receive a deed, then they're going to be assessed property taxes.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is their value for that property going to be taken out of the full value of the building owner's property?
I would think
so.
Their values is going, I would think that their value is going to increase the value of that property in its entirety.
More than 3.5 million? I mean, the build out is, well, and again, that's why I said the abatement, is it going to be tied to the 3.5 million over 5 years, or is it going to be tied to the actual value that the building owner retains over 5 years? So that he would only be the one the taxes are abated for, and the
yes.
Okay, so instead of looking at the numbers, we should look at, I guess the aspect of abating the taxes based on the value of the building owner. I mean,
yeah, the way I look at it is the building owner would get a tax bill no matter what, no matter when he gets these condos built or sold. And he is the one seeking the abatement because he is taking this risk of redeveloping the property in its entirety. So he would get a tax bill each year that would be abated, and the abatement would only apply to his tax bill. Once he completes and sells the condos, new parcels, new tax bills would be generated that would not receive the benefit of the abatement, and they would be paying their property taxes because they bought a brand new beautiful condo, and it would move on from there. But he would continue to receive the benefit of the abatement, but it would not pass along to the condo owner. So there's going to be a tax bill by that property from the building owner, the guy that is applying for this. He is going to have a tax bill that continues on throughout this that will receive the abatement.
I guess that's clear.
Again, I felt like Commissioner Harris is giving me a law school question.
It is as it is outside.
I'll make a motion to approve enterprise zone incentive 1505-09 for Newcastle Street via the recommendation made by the Department and Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay. It's been motioned and seconded for the approval of the enterprise zone incentive for 1505-09 Newcastle Street. As presented and as approved by the Finance Committee, Finance Department, and also approved by the Downtown Development Authority as well. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposers? Hearing nothing from the opposing, that motion carries. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you. Sorry about that. My power went out just as the.
We all having issues tonight.
Boy.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are at item number 9, recommendation, city manager's item, stormwater utility fee for the upcoming building cycle.
Good evening, and I don't know how it is where you all are, but it's a boatload of rain out of here.
It is here too.
I'm going to share my screen, I think, to just go to the stormwater utility. You know, this was presented at the last meeting and deferred, and we went back and there was some questions asked. The question about how the money is spent. Basically, we provided that in FY19, there was $918,000 of expenditures. And as you can see, this is the stormwater utility budget, which had 49% of personnel and 27% operating, general operating, and equipment purchases and equipment maintenance and fuel. So it's basically just the utility budget, the way that the funding is spent. In FY20, there was $1 million spent in that budget. In FY21, and this was $948,000 spent. And it's basically spent in the same manner each year. As you can see this year, I think they had a large purchase of a piece of equipment that caused the equipment purchase area to be higher. But we looked at the fee itself, and based on the recommendations, and what we were looking at was the recommendations from the study that was done when the utility fee was implemented. And I'm trying to get to some information that was presented in, let's see, this is not too clear, but what this information shows is that we have been, the gross revenue that was estimated was $944,000 in 2019. The net revenue was $821,000, and that was the estimated net revenue. We actually had revenue of $895,000. So we generated more revenue than was expected in 2019. The same thing for 2020. The net revenue was $949,000 estimated, and it was over $1 million actual. And this year we had an estimated net revenue of $1,014,000, and we were at $947,000 of actual revenue as of June 24th. And we do think we are going to exceed that net revenue this year. So we have basically generated more revenue. Plus last year we had a net increase in the position that was favorable, and we did not lose any money in this fund. So because of those reasons, we looked at the fee, and of course with, you know, all that has happened with COVID, we felt like we didn't want to recommend an increase. The increase would equate to about $60,000, but we did not want to increase the fee because we have met the revenue goals of the projections from the study. And, you know, we felt like with the economy the way it is, we would not recommend, you know, increasing anything for residents or businesses at this time.
Wow.
So the Finance Committee did agree with that recommendation. So I know that the paperwork in your packet said that the department was recommending the fee, but we are asking that that fee not be increased at this time.
And Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I sure can.
And in Finance Committee, we looked at this as well and thought that this was a very good recommendation, and it would show our community that we still have their best interests at heart and their best concerns as far as things that have happened with COVID and all the things that we are dealing with in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Okay. So, Commissioner, it appears that what's been brought before us this evening is to not recommend an increase to the stormwater utility fee, and that our stormwater utility is doing the things that it needs to do, and it has enough revenue to operate, and there's no need for an increase.
Bridget.
So, excuse me?
Bridget.
I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was calling my wife.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so anyhow, we appear that we have this before us that we are not recommending an increase at the storm utility fee for the upcoming year. So with that said, are there any questions or comments?
Me?
I barely can. You really breaking in and out. You're still breaking in and out. Who was that?
I'm not sure.
Believe it. I thought it was Commissioner Harris.
Okay.
Yeah, the weather's hitting me on this side.
Okay.
So I'm going in and out.
Okay. Any comments you want to make?
No, I just agree. We reviewed it in the Finance Committee, and we don't want to increase it.
Okay. Okay. So if nothing else being said, Commissioner, I need a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we not approve the stormwater utility, but we follow the recommendation of our city manager as presented.
Okay, I got a motion. I got a second. Got a motion, got a second for the city to not recommend stormwater utility fee increase for the upcoming building cycle, and that to let it remain the same as it was before, which is $4.50. So are there any questions to that motion? I hope I stated it correctly. Okay, no questions. All in favor of this motion of keeping our stormwater utility fee the same, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone who opposes, please speak up. Hearing nothing from the opposing side, that motion carries. So therefore, our stormwater utility fee for the upcoming building cycle for next year will stay the same as it is. And thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Finance Committee. Thank you, Gero. Thank you, City Manager, and all your department heads for recommending that we stay where we are and doing such a fabulous job of managing that stormwater utility. All right. Item number 10, comprehensive plan review and presentation.
Okay, I'm going to make this very quick and hopefully relatively simple. Just wanted to say that the reason that I'm doing this is because, we didn't have any overall planning sessions, nor did we, have any real, time during COVID to, look at overall planning for the city. So what I did was, because the city has done tremendous planning in the past, and we have a number of plans that are, put together. I looked at the comprehensive plan, and of course it has a work program that was scheduled for 2018 through 2023. And my thoughts were, we already have a lot of plans and goals that are put into that. And fortunately, the city has been working toward those plans and goals. So I did a kind of summary document of the comprehensive plan, and I will share my screen, hopefully, to look at the plan and just kind of go through it, just to give you all an update. And the first thing I'd like to say is that, as I stated, there are a number of work items for this plan, but the city has been working diligently to accomplish some of those goals. Just as an introduction, of course, this was done, the city did an update in 2018 of the comprehensive plan. And of course, this is a state requirement. And this states that about 50% of the projects have been completed, but a lot of the projects are not necessarily there for completion. They're there for ongoing improvements to the city. Of course, the content areas for the projects was economic development, cultural and environmental projects, housing, infrastructure and parks projects, community involvement and planning projects, transportation, and then there were some supplemental plans to the comprehensive plan. And going forward, I'm just going to briefly review each area and highlight some of the things that have been accomplished in the plan. And again, I think it's commendable that the city has worked toward the comprehensive plan, because a lot of times, some of the plans go on the shelf and people never look at them, you never review them until time for you to update them. So I'm proud to say that the city has made some great strides in improvements and accomplishing some of its goals. Just looking at economic development, it shows that there were 10 projects listed. Of those 10 projects, 5 have been completed and 5 are underway or ongoing. Just to name a few, of course, we talked about the tax allocation district this evening. We talked about the Brunswick opportunity zones, and we are working to promote those incentives for development. The Perry School site development, of course, is underway, and that's a housing development, economic development. The Norwich Common Loan and Grant Program, we've gone through that approval process. And then there was
we lost you again.
4 projects, and of those projects, 3 of them have been approved. We have had our public tree ordinance completed. We had the establishment of the Old Town National Register district updated, and recognition of Newtown as a National Historic District. So those are some of the completed projects that were done in the cultural and environmental area. In the housing area, and I took a nice picture of the Norwich Common there so that we can have our, housing show up. Of course, in the housing area, there were 9 projects, and of those projects, 5 have been completed and 4 are underway or ongoing. Of course, we have the Land Bank Authority, and they are up and running again, and planning some training for the board and reestablishment of policies there. We have housing developments. Since the time that the initial plan, the Norwich Commons and the Brunswick Commons, the Perry Place, the downtown residential development that we have, and some of the other planned projects that we have coming about in the community. So, we've done a lot in housing over the last 4 or 5 years, and, the city should be commended for that. In looking at our infrastructure and parks, in this area, we had 13 projects, and we have 5 completed and 8 that are underway or ongoing. And as you know, that stormwater has a lot to do with the projects that are ongoing and underway in Magnolia Park and College Park. We've established the storm utility fee, which was a part of the comprehensive plan, as well as done the stormwater master plan, which we presented a couple of months ago. And we are working to move forward with the recommendations of that plan.
We really need to get that stormwater master plan going. Let me tell you, we're being inundated right this minute.
I know, Johnny. That's why we are going forward with design for.
I tell you, this is serious what we're going through right now. I just gotten some pictures and it's unreal.
Yeah, I actually got some notes from downstairs, and they, said that we
I
do
bet you have
trees and power lines down at this point.
Virginia,
again,
you need to check the basement downtown too. I'll tell you, if you haven't cleaned those drains out down there, you need to go down there and take a look.
Okay. But we have the Bay Street corridor study that's being done. And then, of course, we are making progress in our parks improvements and the improvements in our squares and other green spaces. So those were some of the completions that were in our infrastructure and parks area. And looking at community involvement and planning, of course, part of the plan was there was 14 projects in this area, and there were 4 that were recorded as completed. The FEMA rating, class 6 rating was accomplished. The neighborhood planning assemblies, that work was completed. The design guidelines for Glen Avenue, and also we are, well into getting our wayfinding and gateway signs completed.
Where are we with our neighborhood and planning assemblies and the community development person that's going to be taking over that? I'm waiting to see when and how we're going to get that back going.
Well, I don't think it's not necessarily us that are kind of holding that back. As a matter of fact, Ms. Myers is working to, communicate and make sure that the MPAs that are not working or not meeting at this time, that we try and, help them just kind of get back on board. So that's something that we will be working on going forward, but I think COVID had more impact on it than, our operation, because we have continued to send out information and communicate with the MPAs as needed.
Okay, so Assistant City Manager Myers is handling that at present.
Some of it, David Bravo is handling some of it, and I am as well. That's one of the reasons why I have been trying to attend those meetings and communicate with those entities and get them back working.
Okay, because I've got a area over oh God, what's that area? Over by New Covenant. Oh Lord, what's that?
That's over off of Reynolds Street.
Yes, over that way that that wants to get something together and do something for that park, do something with that park in that area. But I'll get with you on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, under transportation, there were 8 projects, and at this time we have completed 3 of them, and we have 5 that are underway or ongoing. And of course, in the transportation areas, most of those will be continuous and ongoing projects. We have completed our street ordinance. We've still working on long-range transportation planning. We have done a roads assessment to look at the maintenance and condition of our roads. And also, of course, the planning for our transit system is ongoing. The Gloucester Street improvements, there have been, as you know, we went through that process. And we've also had a number of sidewalk improvements through the CDBG and the SPLOST. So those were some of the initiatives that were under the transportation. And there has been, relatively good progress on those projects. In looking at the supplemental plans, of course, all of those have been completed. These are the plans that were included in the comprehensive plan. I won't go through all of those, but hopefully you all are familiar with most of those plans, and we have been working from those plans throughout this time period. In looking at, and again, one of the reasons I look back at the comprehensive plan is because I wanted the budget to be consistent with moving forward some of the things in the comprehensive plan. So I hope you all went through and looked at some of these items that coincide with what funding we have in the budget. Of course, we put in additional money for personnel in certain areas, and that was so that we can continue work on these initiatives from the plan. In economic development, we want to support the development of the Oglethorpe block. We hope to have more support for the URA and their efforts to do that. We want to look at federal funding and make sure, that we take advantage of all the federal funds that are out there, and we have, personnel to help kind of beat the bushes, look at the funding that's available, and make the best recommendation for funding that, meet the needs of the community here. We may not take advantage of some of it because, sometimes it doesn't, we just don't meet the criteria, or it is not something that will be helpful for us. We also want to revisit the tourism study, which promoted the African American tourism products, and look at that area, and we'll have some work that we'll do in that area going forward. In housing, we hope.
Regina, could I say something about the cultural and environmental projects real quick? I don't know if this is where it could fit in, but I really think that we've got an asset here in the Altamaha Canal, and somewhere the city needs to get behind the Altamaha Canal. I think that would be a really good cultural and environmental project.
Well, I would like to find out more about that, Johnny, and certainly I'll put it on my list, Commissioner Kaysen, so that, we can look into it. But I appreciate you bringing that up.
I really think with it emanating in the city of Brunswick, that it's something that would be very appropriate for us to look into and to perhaps initiate.
Okay. Thank you. Under housing, we want to look at expanding our assistance to home buyers and see if there's some programs that the city can help in partnering with some of the local nonprofits, and also using some of the CDBG money to assist in that process. We want to provide better assistance to the land bank, and of course we put money in the budget for support of the land bank. We also put money in the budget for demolitions and to clean up the blighted areas, and look into working with community partners to address senior needs, homelessness, and low income. And all of this is part of the comprehensive plan directives and work program goals. Under infrastructure, of course, I can't say, like Johnny said, it's nothing we can say to say, we need to invest as much as we can into improving our storm drainage, and also develop, better methods of cleaning and keeping our ditches and drainage cleaned out. We're going to go through with our preliminary engineering, as I stated, of the drainage master plan projects. We have at least the first 5 projects, money to develop those designs, and hopefully when we get the SPLOST, we'll be ready, just shovel ready for those projects to start. We also put money in the budget for broadband services, and hopefully to develop a better broadband footprint here in the community.
Regina, I'd like to say something about that too. I appreciated the presentation that we had, but I really hope you'll look into the GMA and talk to them about broadband in depth.
Yeah, I think the presentation was really basic, although I think
yes,
really good information, but it wasn't specific enough for us to know,
we've got a lot of opportunity there. I really feel like, and we've had a lot of opportunity, and this might be the time to really and truly figure out what we could do for this city.
Okay. And yeah, that's what I would like to do in terms of broadband, because the question still hasn't been answered as to what are the, specific needs that need to be fulfilled in that area. So that's kind of what we're searching for right now.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
the presentation was an awareness presentation to bring about the fact of now the city creating a footprint for broadband based upon the needs. And I think it left a challenge for the city to do its part, finding out how to bring that
The
footprint.
city has been challenged and it's been out there for us. We've got the infrastructure that's required still. We really had it when we had a water and a sewer department. So might be the time.
Yeah, I think that's what the presentation was about, was for us to start moving forward with it now. Not just putting a footprint, but start put some shoes in those footprints.
Okay. Again, we want to increase our public participation on, all of the city's activities. Of course, transparency is one of the things that everyone talks about, and we want to make sure we're getting information out there. We're keeping our website updated, and we're, using social media and other mediums to get information out for the city. So the budget supports all of those efforts, and also for just basically the planning in the community and development, plan review and inspections. And I know a number of you have throughout this past year, we've had some issues with that. So we're hoping that we can meet the needs of all of the development in the community and make sure they go smoothly, and that the city is, supporting and helping those efforts as much as we can. Still looking at the public transportation and making, sure we make the right decisions that we can, sustain the system once we put it in place. Internal, the budget supports goals. Of course, I am very supportive of our employees and want to look at, any type of enhancement, looking at a wellness plan for our employees, and also more appreciation and recognition programs, as well as internal training. And also, looking at improving our recruitment and retention, not only in public safety, but in other areas of the city. So we're going to put forth, just a strong effort to enhance our human resources operations throughout the year. The other thing is information technology. And, we've had some scares lately with some of the breaches that we've had on our email. So we want to continue to secure our system and update our hardware and software, and also make sure we have, updates ongoing for all of our equipment so that we won't be vulnerable to some of these cyber attacks. Just looking at
Regina, let me say something about our technology too. One of the goals that I have had for the city of Brunswick is total connectivity. And I would like to see that part of this plan is identifying those that are not connected to the city network, and at least bringing it before the commission and seeing if we can't achieve total connectivity. We've got people that clock out that have to drive places to clock out, and we need to work on that. It costs a lot of money, and it should have been addressed a long time ago, and it just got dropped. This would be a good time to identify where we need to do and to put it down on the plan.
And you're talking about our employees?
I'm talking about our departments and our employees. Yes.
Yeah, we are. That
Yes.
is part of our plan, is to make sure that those, employee connections are made, and that technologically, we will be having people able to, clock in and clock out and have a system that's more convenient and, right at hand. So yes, that is part of what was put in the budget.
And total connectivity through software.
Okay. These are just some of the plans that are highlighted that we'll be looking at in the budget and making sure that we move forward. They are not any different than what we've done over the past year that I've been here. So we will continue to work and, put forth our efforts. We have policies and procedures that we're developing for our TAD. We have, the urban, the URA that have a training that is ongoing right now. So we are moving forward with a lot of these in a lot of these areas. The Sidney Lanier Park, we will be bringing forth, hopefully in the near future, an agreement with the DOT to establish, so that we can make improvements to that park. And I also am going forth and researching about the African American Tourism Project. So we will be working on a lot of these areas throughout the year. That's the end of my presentation. And again, I think it shows a lot of effort has gone into the city working on the work plan, and basically accomplishing some of the goals that were set several years ago. So are there any questions?
No, but I like to say, yes, I know we have completed a number of those items that you mentioned, and I know this commission have been diligently working on those things, and I'm glad you're here to continue to help us move forward. Looking at the work study, the short-term work program, item number 45 kind of caught my eye. We've been trying to look at that to square off our boundaries. And I know we're into a very delicate but good position with our county. So maybe that may be something that we can look at as we move forward. Also, with this short-term work program, it would be good if we could highlight the things that we have completed, just to give us a sense of, hey, we've done something, even though we already know that anyhow. But it would be good just to see that those things will be checked off. I think one time years before you got here, we decided we was gonna put a big checklist up downtown in City Hall and check off all the things that we said we would do, and we actually have done those things. A testament of this great city commission working together and getting things done for our citizens. So anyhow, I commend you for bringing this back up and knowing that although we have done some work, our work still is not complete, and we still keep running forward to the goal to get them all done. So I thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mayor. And that was my point, was that to see, the show, again, sometimes you put together plans and people never pay attention to it. But I think, the city has done a good job of keeping its eye on the items that were set forth to be accomplished in the plan.
Yes. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for our city manager? Okay, thank you, everybody. I know we have come to the end of our regular printed agenda. The fact that I believe there's one item for executive session, but it is storming.
Hey, I'd like to say this. I'd like to thank whoever made this decision to do this as a virtual meeting. Great, kudos. You did a great thing, whoever it was. And we really look forward. I have sat here since the tornado warning, and I have just watched us get pummeled here. I'm telling you, wind, rain, everything. So there's no telling what's out there for us at all. I'll make a motion to adjourn if you'll accept it.
If that's okay with our city attorney, because I know he had one item. That's okay with you, sir?
Absolutely. I think it's the right decision.
Second.
Okay, motion second for adjournment. Before I adjourn, I want to say thank you all for being on this commission, especially during this time right now, going through what we're going through. Please be safe, everybody. Take care of each other. Take care of things need to be taken care of. And tomorrow will be a brand new day. So all in favor of adjourned meeting, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Good night, be safe.
All right. Good night. Be safe, everybody.
Thank
This
you.
meeting is adjourned.